All right, what is up, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer and Mike Goolsby here for the Mike Goolsby Show. We are live Sunday night, September 18th, the day after Notre Dame's 24-17 triumph over Cal. Should be a fun show tonight with Mr. Goolsby. So make sure you drop a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Notre Dame football and recruiting content. Mr. Goolsby, how you doing this weekend, man?
I'm good, man. Had a busy weekend. Irish get a win. Yeah, I was out there working with some kids today. So, yeah, good little weekend. Fired up to get a win. We appreciate all of our subscribers and all the support. The last episode was a lot of fun, and hoping this week's will be a little bit of the same.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a great show last week, and yeah, the Mike Goolsby show has been it's been killing it here this season. Third year, Mike. Third year we've been doing the Mike Goolsby show.
I swear I think it's like based off of views, it's up there in terms of Notre Dame specific podcasts. So please do subscribe, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the support. It's been a ton of fun for me personally, and getting the opportunity to do this every week. So. Who'd have thought people would like to listen to your rant, But we're on to something, bro.
There's worse ways to make money, for sure.
That's fair. Oh, you're getting paid to do this?
Mike, it's been a great weekend for me personally. I mean, the Notre Dame win, at least Marcus Freeman gets on the board.
Tua's killing it. 6 touchdowns today, right?
Dude, I'm a very happy camper. I've not been this excited as a Dolphins fan in quite a long time. I've seen one playoff win in my life for the Dolphins, one. So that just kind of goes to show I was too young when Reno was quarterback. So I don't think people really care about the Miami Dolphins on this show. So, Mike, let's just get into Notre Dame 24, Cal 17. You've had a day to reflect. You've probably watched back the full game at least once. What are your biggest takeaways?
Forgive me, but I can't go. I can't leave out. I cannot omit the phantom offsides, neutral zone infraction on the field goal. I haven't heard it discussed a lot. And we missed a field goal. We get the ball back due to this phantom penalty. We go in to score. So the game was close. The game was a touchdown game. You take that drive off that board. Maybe we're playing in overtime with a average to below average Cal team. So I'm still encouraged by the win, but I'm very just being realistic. We'll see what this season turns into.
Where's the offsides? This is just for
no, I appreciate that, Mike. Yeah. So this again. We went on to miss this field goal attempt. And got the ball back, first down. We go in to score that little pop pass to Tyree I think to even the game up at that point. So this is a non-call call. So we get the ball back here. So had it not been for that, and you can't forecast exactly how the game would have went, but we wouldn't have tied the game up on this series. So we're not a very good football team. I listened to your and Tim Hyde's show. I mean, we're not a very good football team, and that's okay. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
But it is okay. It's just like you kind of temper your expectations and continue to build.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of the things that I think you and I discussed and sort of called for following the Marshall loss that looked like we tried to sort of the team, as far as the team approach, we implemented in terms of running the ball, power game. I wanted kind of I wanted to bully Cal is what I was really looking forward to going into this game. And I think we managed to do that as the game went on with our offensive approach. Defensive line, decided to show up. Isaiah Foskey's in the building, even though he missed a couple sacks. But it was an encouraging win, and off we go. 1-2.
Yep. Folks, drop a super chat. I see questions coming in our live chats. If you have something for Goolsby, drop one of those. And we have some things we want to talk about, but we we're just kind of hanging out with you all tonight, and we will answer any questions that come in via Super Chat. So throw us some change there. Yeah, and if you're watching back on YouTube, you're not able to give a Super Chat. You can give a Super Thanks, though, which I believe is right below the video near the like button or whatever. So you can do that to help support us. And podcast audience, please leave us a kind rating if you like what you hear. Yeah, Mike, I think kind of looking at this outside in at the program right now. Sorry, Mike. Sometimes you give me that scowl. I'm not sure. I'm like, oh man,
I'm just listening. No, I'm sorry,
really
bro.
analyzing what I'm saying. I got to say something smart because Goolsby's really paying attention.
I'm very intently listening. I apologize. I'll look over here. Go ahead.
That makes for great visual. I think if you look at this as I want Notre Dame to win a national championship this season. Okay, you lose at Ohio State, or maybe still good. Maybe it's still there if you run the table. And then you lose to Marshall, and then you go into the Cal game. You're thinking, if we still go 10-2, and like this is where the team should be right now, I get being absolutely livid. But I think if you kind of look at it in the vacuum and being like just where the team is for this season right now, I think you're pleased with the Cal game. If you look at like the score predictions that all of us had a blue and gold, it was all low scoring within 10-point games. So I think it kind of met expectations. So I actually feel like okay, but I totally understand being like, man, like this is not the correct trajectory, right? After these past few seasons, but transition season, I don't know, maybe Buckner is back next season. Get 8-9 wins, get Buckner back. Maybe you get a transfer quarterback in, get some of these young guys going. Well, I don't know, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is the truest measure of performance. I've said this. I had a coach tell me that once, and I've said it on this pod more than once. And it's just like everybody wants to throw stones at Coach Reese, but it's like, what has he had to work with consistently? Last year was transfer quarterback, poor O-line play. This year it's a little bit of poor O-line play. His new toy at the quarterback position, of course, gets hurt 2 games in. You're thin at the wide receiver position. So it's, offensively, there's not a lot to work with and to build on. We went with a power run game, which I think, and I believe that was the scheme and the plan going into the Ohio State game, was to try and play bully ball. Kind of went away from that, maybe a little bit too conservative, tried a lot in the Marshall game. I mean, we tried everything, going from empty to 13 personnel. We tried everything. And now we've settled back in on the power run game. But when we talk about a national championship program, Mike, in the DNA of a national championship program, you need elite players on the edges, specifically at the wide receiver position, and conversely in the secondary at corner. Our corners are playing great. Everybody's playing pretty well in this secondary. There's no glaring. It's not as glaring. The deficiencies aren't as glaring as they were in seasons past. But on the offensive side of the ball, Coach Reese doesn't really have a lot of weaponry to work with. So he's almost left with playing that power game. And then you have a quarterback that, he doesn't necessarily have a cannon for an arm, Michael, and Drew Pine. I do think that as games continue on, you're going to see some play action shots. I think you'll see those. But until we can get some elite athleticism, talent, speed on the outside at the wide receiver position, and guys that want to go compete and win. There was a clip during the Cal game, where they had the tight copy, or that kind of floating camera from the quarterback's perspective. They ran 4 wides. Drew Pine ended up just getting loose and just dumping it down to Michael Mayer. But all 4 of our receivers, we ran 4 verts. Nobody was working to get open. I don't even know if they were sprinting. I mean, it was like an up-tempo jog. So until that kind of stuff changes, and then the recruiting piece too, Mike, and you know this all too well, is like, yeah, if you're not if we're not airing the ball out on film and filling up the stat sheet, it's going to be difficult to get that wide receiver, those elite wide receivers, kind of into the program. So, like, if I'm the player personnel guy at Notre Dame, I mean, you got to be looking at like, in terms of like evaluating high school film transfers or whatever. I want to see anybody and everybody at the wide receiver position. I'm looking at them all because we need just athletic traits, speed, etc. on the outsides to grow the program.
I'm gonna throw a take at you, Mike, and you tell me what you think.
Sure.
I feel like 80% of my job is really just reading YouTube comments and doing live shows. So all I see is what Notre Dame fans have to say. And it's I'd probably say about 90% of the complaints about the offense are Pine or Reese. You know, fire Reese, he can't call a game, or get rid of Pine. And I'm the biggest Steve. I am literally the biggest Steve Angeli fan there is.
Do you have a Steve Angeli jersey? Yes or yes?
I do not. Yes. How about yes?
Well, get your act together.
I'm not saying to throw the kid in there. He's got 1 week of first team reps. I mean, you can't throw him in there unless you literally have to. And I think Notre Dame did a wise thing by not playing him.
How neat was it to see? And you know me, bro, I'm always going to support our quarterback, right? I might have one preference one way or the other, but whoever they pick, that's who I'm going to ride with, right?
Yeah.
It was fascinating to watch Drew Pine battle. And it was interesting to see this poor little kid out there, the weight of being a Notre Dame quarterback. You could see it the first several drives on offense, how stressed out he was. I mean, he couldn't complete a simple, 6-yard little dump off to Lorenzo Styles, I think was his first pass. Couldn't do it because of the nerves. So everybody that wants to, hate on Tyler Buckner, hate on Ian Book, hate on Jack Cohn. I mean, you can call out the obvious, that Jack Cohn was a statue and just limited athletically, but it's a tough gig. It's the toughest position in sports, and doing so at a program like Notre Dame, it ain't easy. I do think Coach Reese has done a great job. I mean, maybe not great, but going back to what we talked about earlier, kind of how I opened the show, the dude has limited resources. And I think I use that analogy of preparing a meal prior to, right? Like, some of these schools have their kitchen cabinets or kitchen cupboards are full of ingredients and whatever. And, Reese is like, I got a half a can of tuna. I got some mustard, he's just making do with what he has. But at least we have a running game. We can lean on our offensive line. We have a place to stand, and then you got to build off of that.
Okay, going back to my take, which I just realized I didn't finish.
I cut you off naturally.
No, that's fine. This is not the Mike Singer show. A lot of the hate's Pine or Reese. What about your veteran offensive lineman false starts? What about Lorenzo Styles dropping a pass? I mean, I just
Braden Lenzy false start.
Braden Lenzy dropping a third down pass over the middle of the field. It was just a lot of, I think it was Lenzy. It was a pretty good ball by Pine, 20 yards downfield. It's such a collective group effort often. I mean, the game of football is, you have to be firing on all cylinders. So, I mean, Pine's a limited quarterback. The offense needs to help pull him along and put him in good positions. And so they weren't doing him any favors in that first quarter. He obviously stunk, but no one else was doing him any favors.
Yeah, and it's what you just said. I mean, your hot take, Mike, is what I went on and on and on about last week in terms of, like, there's the play call and then there's the execution.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. This is a slight dig on Pine, but like so much of what you heard about Pine was, his moxie and his confidence and his, swagger, etc. Right.
Yeah.
And he comes out there and just, what's down his leg. And it's like, I thought this was like this, this cocky, swaggy.
Let me interrupt you.
Right.
Is there something to
Yes, there is. Go ahead.
Coming in as a backup against Wisconsin, Cincinnati, and him getting that first start?
Yeah, I think
all the pressure's on him rather than coming in and being a relief pitcher. Tim Hyde didn't think there's anything to that. I want to hear what you got to say, Mike. Sorry.
I absolutely think there's something to it. I mean, you saw it. It's real in terms of you don't have time. If you're coming off the bench, emergency situation against the Wisconsin, you don't have time to let your anxiety build up and lose sleep in leading up to the game. And as a starter, you do. So kid's never been in this position before. Neither had Tyler Buckner, and everybody wants to drag Tyler Buckner for the way he played. So I would expect that Pine would get the same treatment, and Tyler Buckner's got more talent than Drew Pine does. So yeah, absolutely, Mike. I think there's a ton of validity to the scenario versus being thrust into a game and just playing with your hair on fire, letting your instincts take over, and then having the time to let the situation kind of get to you with that anxiety. And but like I said, I mean, you could see how stressed out Drew was, and you feel for him. I'm proud of him though that he battled. And the another thing, I just made some notes. You know, after last week's show, I kind of went in, as the kids say, I went in on the in terms of expressing my disappointment in the program and the effort, etc. And I was just like, man, whatever I said, and I'm not a coach or anything, but like whatever I said ought to pale in comparison to what how their coaches lit them up during film. So then we got a glimpse of, yeah. And I had a note. I was like, so what I said pales in comparison to what their coaches said in film or what they should have said. Yeah. And then fans got a chance to see what it's like, get a little glimpse behind the curtain where poor Drew Pine's getting his butt chewed out on national television, and you could read Coach Reese's lips. Do your job. This whole team's depending on you. And I was like, man, that was fun for me to see, because again, I look at everything through so much of a player's perspective. So, right. And I also thought one of my things that I was looking for, just kind of moving on here, Mike, was you talk about first timers, a first time starter in Pine, and obviously a first time head coach in Marcus Freeman. I was interested. I'm intrigued by Freeman's sideline demeanor, the facial expressions, how he carries himself. I want to keep watching to see how that kind of evolves. I didn't see him get very animated this past week,
except for when he chewed out Pine.
Sure, but there's opportunities for him to jump down the ref's throat. Not. I couldn't sleep last night, and I went back and watched one of my old games, because sometimes I'll do that, right? Again, glory days, right? We need to have But Freeman, in a way, reminded me of Coach Willingham, in a way, in terms of the sideline demeanor.
Okay.
So not a good thing.
People don't like that, yeah.
I'm going to wait and see. But I was just like, because you watch one game, you rewatch the Cal game, you watch an old game of Willingham era, and I was like, there's a little bit of a similarity. I'm going to let that play itself out, just to see how he's, interacting with his team, inspiring them, motivating them, what have you.
Okay.
So anyway,
yeah, a couple more items on Pine before we move into a different discussion. See, this is the very typical comment that I'm saying. Like,
absolutely.
What did Pine do yesterday that Angeli couldn't do? And I think just as I'm going to put myself in this, as just as fans, we just look at this as it's a game of Madden. Well, Pine is this. He's got 72 overall, and Angeli's got 67 overall. So, it's like, what's the big difference there? Like, maybe Angeli has a stronger arm and is taller, so why can't he do that? But the thing is, it's not a video game. This is reps. This is something Angeli has not had. There's the real life component that these are real people. This is third year of the program, and he's been trained a lot more for this. Thoughts, Mike?
So let's try and put this thing to bed. The Angeli Pine, and because this is Mike, as long as I've known you, we've had the same sort of conversation. It's just you pull one name out and insert another name, which is a problem. But yep. Angeli's a true freshman, right? And he played in a kind of a pro style offense out there at Bergen Catholic, but he wasn't asked to do a lot. That doesn't mean that he cannot do things outside of what he was asked to do in high school. But you have to understand, they were getting Tyler Buckner, also a very, very inexperienced quarterback with a lot of, gifts, physical talent. They were pouring into Buckner. You understand? All through spring, all through camp. I'd be shocked if Buckner didn't get 80% of the snaps. Pine, he's been in the program. He'll get his thing. He's kind of the consummate professional backup guy. So Pine would probably get a couple here and there. If Angeli never got a rep, it wouldn't shock me at all. It wouldn't shock me at all.
I think that's what Freeman said. I want to say.
And he shouldn't have. He's a true freshman quarterback, and you're trying to get Buckner ready. So to put that argument to bed, folks, Angeli's been practicing with the team for 5 days. You know what I'm saying? He's been practicing with the team for 5 days. We may get a chance to see him because he is your backup quarterback. I can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry. Otherwise, he's just been a scout quarterback and throw into GAs and stand on the sidelines in practice, right?
People are wild, man. I mean, he's a freshman in college. Imagine all that transition, being away from home, going. I mean, all of that is
quarterback different than these other spots, right? That's a key. Like Ben Morrison got here in the summer and he's playing a lot of snaps, but difference is a quarterback, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's so you do go with Angeli, then what? Angeli gets hurt, and then we're going to put Tyree, we're going to play Wildcat or something, right? I mean, you got to be logical. Reese is doing a good job. It goes back to the argument that we had last week. It's like people got to execute. And as I've said over and over again, Mayer is the only guy that on the team that is consistently reliable playmaker. I had a note. Did we find any new talent? The answer is really no. Eli Raridan, they keep rolling him in, kind of mixing him in. I'm really excited. I think he's a special, special kid. I'm excited for his I texted his father last night. I was like, Eli's first catch, he's going to do something with it. I just know. Tobias Merriweather got in the game. So that's, new young talent. Junior Tuialamaka got in a little bit. Gabe Rubio played a little bit. So this will work, folks. It's just going to take probably longer than we wanted to. And Freeman's going to have to put his kind of inject his DNA into this program and put his thumbprint on it and start recruiting his kids. It's going to take longer than we probably wanted to. We thought that our base was probably stronger than it is, and it's not. I was happy to see Logan Diggs get a chance to rest up and not play as well.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to a couple super chats. Milton Fan 15. I feel like it's in all of our shows. Drop the super chat, so we appreciate the support. He says, here's my frustration. Offense plays not to make mistakes / scared. And even with Tyler Buckner, they looked the same as last year. Not blaming Tommy Reese, but should we?
It goes back to we talked about it last week, brother. If you're in Tommy Reese's shoes, what are you going to do? You got a quarterback in Drew Pine. Drew Pine shouldn't be in the program. I mean, he's less than ideal in terms of like what you want in your quarterback room in terms of gifts and physical traits, whatever. But you got him. He can't throw a ball 40 yards. It's a lot like Jack Cohn. Jack Cohn didn't have a strong arm. But in these tight games, Milton, you're in a one touchdown game. You can't turn a ball over. And then the defense has yet to create a turnover. We thought we had one with Tariq Bracy, but J.D. Bertrand, ruined that opportunity. So we're not turning the ball over on defense. So we don't ever want to be negative in the turnover margin. And to me, that's the most important stat in football is turnover margin. So I can empathize with Coach Reese in terms of having a conservative game plan. It is what it is, man. He worked some screens in. Everybody wanted screens. Okay, he threw 3-4 screens this week. The guy's got a weak interior line, not a lot of talent or depth at the outside receiver position. He has 2 running backs, and he has a quarterback that's should be playing for Zom Hall.
So the discussion of I mean, this is Reese quarterback room. Like I mean, they could have gotten transfer in the offseason. They could have recruited different guys. So I think there's two ways to look at it: is the like kind of in a vacuum of like this game, this season versus the big picture of, well, why didn't Notre Dame only take one receiver last year? Why has receiver recruiting been so abysmal the past couple of years? Just signing one guy in 2022. Obviously, 2021 class was strong with Styles, and Jaden Thomas is in there a ton. Put out an Amber Alert for Deion Colsey. I don't know what's going on there.
I know what's going on.
Receiver class, but yeah, I mean, it falls a lot on him, the offensive coordinator. I mean, you're kind of the boss on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and some of that execution falls on him as well, right? In terms of false starts, drop balls, what have you. So, where's the game played at? Is the UNC game on the road, or is that at home next week?
Road.
That'll be good for the team. As I've alluded to this many times on this show before.
No
that'll be good for the
pep
team.
Rallies. Just go
do your ball,
job, as Tommy Reese would say.
There's no pageantry. Just go play the game. That'll be good for the team.
Okay.
In terms of switching up the vibe, that will be good for the team. But again, I put some of it on Coach Reese. You make a great point, Mike. The kind of the behind the scenes, the recruiting, the mechanics of building an offense, I think that Reese should probably take a fair bit of grief for. But in terms of the game day play calling, he's got that bare cupboard that I reference as an analogy. He's got a bare cupboard. So I'm empathetic towards his situation, but also
he kind of put himself here a little bit, right?
Yeah, he's too lazy to go to the grocery store.
I'm going to say, Mike, this might be a very unpopular opinion. I think he's been great. I thought he played a great game. You agree?
No, I don't disagree with you. I mean, okay. Jury's still out on Freeman we didn't bring Freeman in here to be the next Bill Walsh in terms of like X's and O's. Freeman's job is to recruit, and he's going to build his own culture, put his own little spin on this Notre Dame culture. And I don't feel like, I probably didn't even understand Notre Dame football until way after I had left. And even doing this show has given me a much deeper understanding of like what Notre Dame football actually is and the culture, et cetera. So that's going to take Freeman time. His job is to recruit. But yes, I agree with you. I think that Reese has done a fair job with what he has to work with.
I thought like the Ohio State game, Freeman was like, look, this is the offense. It's like, that 2020 season was just ground and pound offense. Like, this is what we want to do against Ohio State. Thought he did really good. I talked to a source after the game close to the Notre Dame football program that told me, that like folks in that building thought that Reese called a fantastic game. And Marshall was just a shit show all around. But I thought that all things considered, I thought he called a pretty good game against Cal. Might not be a popular opinion, but
it's fine, man. But again, it's like it's fine. And I agree with you. I think Reese is doing a fair job. A lot of it comes down to the players in terms of executing and trying to go up and make a play. We've got a nice balance. I tell you, man, Tyree's going to be a nice little NFL player. He's got so much bounce to him, and just in terms of even watch Tyree jog to the sidelines. He's so tightly wound,
dude.
In terms of his athleticism.
One of our first uses of you at Blue and Gold is, I used to just call you up and get your thoughts on recruits. And I'd write up an article based on what you said. You loved Chris Tyree, and for a smaller guy, you liked him between the tackles. You think, a small, fast guy, run sweeps, jet sweep, toss. You're like, no, put this guy between the tackles, because as a former linebacker, that's tough to catch that little guy in a phone booth. And
I'll tackle Audric Estime all day long. I'm 250 pounds. I'll tackle Audric Estime all day long. Worst case scenario, I've said this on this show, I'll hold his ass up, and then everybody else comes in. Worst case scenario, a guy like Chris Tyree, I got to get down to his level and tackle him in a phone booth. That's not easy. But the other thing too, Mike, we never talk about defense, and we're 3 games into this season and we've yet to create a turnover. And so Marcus Freeman is here to recruit, brand the culture however he chooses once he kind of gets a feel for it. But we're not creating enough havoc on defense, and that havoc creates energy. And I think that's really what this team is kind of lacking, is just overall energy. And that's why I think it's going to be good to get on the road, wash ourselves of our sins, kind of begin anew there at UNC.
All right, let's pay some bills, and then we got a super
Hit it.
chat to get to. All right, Irish fans, are you looking for that perfect gift for the Notre Dame fan in your life?
I am, Mike. I am. What do we
Hey,
got?
well, Mike, there's one place to go, and it's Augie's Locker Room.
I've heard.
Located less than a mile away from Notre Dame Stadium, the best Notre Dame collectibles in the country. If you are a passionate Irish fan and you are looking for that special Notre Dame piece to just get in that man cave of yours, go to augieslockerroom.com. It's on the screen here. Contact, all this good stuff. You use promo code Augie. Head to the site, augieslockerroom.com. Wide selection of Notre Dame Stadium pieces, jerseys, helmets, autographs, one-of-a-kind Rockney items, Joe Montana signed items. Augie is partnering with famous sculptor Jerry McKenna to be the exclusive dealer of his Notre Dame bronze statues, the statues you've seen around the stadium. Augie has McKenna's artwork for sale in his store. So if Augie doesn't have something in the store, he will find it for you. Visit augieslockerroom.com or stop in. It's 1811 South Bend Avenue. Guys, again, right by Notre Dame campus. If you're coming to a game, stop at Augie's Locker Room. See the vintage helmet display dating back to 1890. augieslockerroom.com or call 574-277-ND. So
I'm going back for the Clemson game, Mike. I'm going to pop in there.
Dude, it's awesome. I've met Augie 2 or 3 times now. Just awesome dude. Whenever I'm in town, I'm just working at our office in South Bend, which is super close to Augie's Locker Room, and I'll just pop in and say hi. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're the one who does my ad reads all the time." So yeah, he's a great dude, local business, and you're getting some really cool stuff. So yeah, cool. All right, super chat to get to. Dan Muller says, "Is it me or does?" And this is kind of getting to what you were talking about a minute ago, Mike. Does Marcus Freeman look completely miserable and overwhelmed on the sideline? Love Marcus Freeman, but he didn't inherit a bad team. They shouldn't look this bad.
Yeah, he's got that. Marcus is going with the Elvis, sort of the lip thing, whatever that's called. Elvis used to do the lip thing. He wears that expression throughout the game. And I've said this too about, forgive me, but I've said this about head coaches in terms of their level of fitness. And I don't know how Marcus does it, but he's got, 5, 6 kids, all the responsibilities, and he still finding time to get, 10, 15 hours a week in the gym. But yeah, Marcus, he looks a little uncertain on the sidelines, looks a little, I guess, inquisitive. A little bit of like he's a little perplexed. So that's something that I've just been kind of keeping track of in terms of his on-field demeanor. And we'll see how it continues to evolve. It's the first time he's done it. He's a young man too. I mean, he's 36, 37 years old. Go ahead, Mike.
Like when someone's like, "I don't know what to do with my hands." Like, Marcus Freeman's, been a DC all his life. Like, what am I supposed to do?
That's so funny you mentioned that. Yeah.
He knows that all of these cameras are on him. I don't know. It's a learning experience.
It's a learning experience. But, again, so if you're going to be down on the field, and you're going to be kind of a player's coach, like you got to get in there and mix it up. He jumped on Drew Pine. But I go back to the defense. I can promise you that there's a certain level of respect that Coach Freeman has for Al Golden, so he probably doesn't want to step on his toes, and he's learning those dynamics as well. But that's absolutely something I'm going to continue to watch, is how his sideline demeanor grows and maybe evolves.
So there's a lot of what we're talking about here is a lot of just learning on the job.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to, should Notre Dame be in a spot where your head coach is learning on the job? I don't know. But let me say this. Let me ask you this, Mike. If I said, 10-2 this season, maybe win a bowl game, a New Year's Six bowl, and 11-1 the next season, losing the college playoff, whatever it may be, or maybe a couple 8-4 seasons, and then you win a national title. Like, which are you taking? So it's a high floor, high ceiling, low floor proposition here, and I don't know. It's a gamble, but I think it's a good one. Because his recruiting, you're not gambling on his recruiting. He's going to be a good recruiter. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's going to do the best job I think anyone can do at Notre Dame. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, even there's layers to recruiting. So it's like I've heard this discussed where we may sign the best offensive line class in the country, and that boosts our recruiting ranking, goes up. Sure. But to your point, we only snag one wide receiver. So it's like, well, did we really have a great wide receiver, a great recruiting class overall? And then the other piece is, and this is the thing, and I'm like, I'm going to bring Rico Flores in this because I beat you to become the president of his fan club. But like, if you can get personality profile like a Rico Flores, like a Jalen Sneed, again, I've heard he's a bit of a handful, which I personally am all for. So there's the what can the kid do on film and in person at a camp, et cetera, measurables, height, weight, speed, whatever, and then what does he bring in terms of a personality and energy to continue to build that level of competitiveness within the locker room and the energy, et cetera. I played against those USC teams way back in the day, and all they were, I mean, that's what they did. That's how they branded themselves, is just competitive practices. It was fun, but it was competitive. And I think that's something I'm hoping. I mean, if I'm hoping for, we got to continue to kind of change that locker room dynamic and get more energy, more spunk, more personalities in there personally.
I just want to say, for the record, I just like to remind Notre Dame fans, when I said the floor for the season was 7-5, I was mocked, and now the ceiling is 8-4. So I just want to throw that out there. 7-5 apparently was too low of a floor for this season.
No, Mike, you've got a good track record, dude. I mean, in terms of your crystal ball, but I mean, you have that luxury of being kind of that outsider. Where'd you go to school? South Florida.
Hey, we almost won Saturday. I can't name two players on the team, but I tuned in for the last 30 seconds.
Yeah, I hear South Florida. I think Matt Grothy. Remember the quarterback, Matt Grothy, and obviously the defensive end that blew his finger off. What's his face?
JPP.
JPP. So, yeah, you've been right. So maybe people ought to start paying more attention to.
No. Just keep giving me a hard time.
You sort of predicted you predicted the Tyler Buckner injury in a way.
I mean, like, all I said on Buckner was, if Notre Dame's gonna ask him to be a drop back passer, I don't think it's gonna work, and then they're gonna make him run. He's gonna get hurt. That's what I thought.
But they kind of did Tyler Buckner dirty.
What do you mean?
They ran him into the ground.
They had to. How were they going to beat Marshall? How else were they going to beat Marshall, dude? That's the only way they were able to move the ball.
But they kind of did him dirty, and then they're like, okay, here's 2 runs. You go run to the sideline, helter-skelter. Oh, and then now I'm going to ask you to go complete this, 3rd and 8 pass or whatever when you're sucking wind. It wasn't fair. They kind of did that kid dirty. Now, we did see a little bit of RPO run game from Drew Pine. Yikes. You talk about trucker trailer, Mike. That kid was pulling a trailer.
He should have gave that one. But dude,
I thought Drew Pine was a better athlete in terms of just like speed. He is slow. So throw that out the game plan. Throw it out.
He's somewhere between Buckner and Cone. I mean, there's a pretty wide chasm there, but he's he can move a little bit. He got after it a little bit.
Let's say he's quick. To be kind, we'll say he's quicker than fast. How's that?
Yeah, he got. I mean, yes, he got ran down pretty. But can you imagine if they just went to this instead of like, all right, we have Buckner. Let's think Buckner for the Marshall game. We're going to open things up. We're going to run this pretty offense, and it just does not work. If they would have had Buckner, let's say Buckner doesn't get hurt, and they go to ground and pound, simple passes, don't make our quarterback throw far downfield because we don't have a quarterback who can light it up, nor do we have the receivers to, right? It's really just Styles.
That's what we're saying.
So what if they just did that with Buckner? Because going back to, what is this offense that Angeli can't do? Like, why can't we just have Angeli in there, right? Buckner could certainly do everything that Pine was doing Saturday, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, man,
Yeah,
if they would have just
it's
stuck with the ground and pound identity, Buckner doesn't get hurt.
Tyler was a 5-star. Tyler was a 5-star, Mike. Wasn't he a 5-star?
Close-ish.
Yeah. Close. Top 30-ish,
like
whatever, right? Top 50 recruit. You know, we had one, and it took us two games to get him hurt. So that was kind of a bummer. But then also, so much of this, Mike, it goes back to offense gets all the attention, all the headlines.
We haven't talked defense yet, have we?
And I'm just saying, so much of it comes back to defense. And we're doing all these off-season shows, and we had crowned Maris Leofau. You know, we had crowned him. We had anointed him. And that dude had 2 tackles yesterday. 2. And I texted you and Tim, and I put my, going back to being Uncle Rico, dude, Napoleon Dynamite, Uncle Rico. If I had a game as a starter and I had 6 tackles or, 6 tackles, like I was sick. I was like, man, I blew it, with 6. You're always looking for 6+, 8, 11, you feel good. You were productive. 2 tackles from the will spot. The defensive line played great. Jacob Lacey, Howard Cross mixing it up. Gabe Rubio looked good. He knew what he was doing out there. I can't wait to see him continue to fill out his frame. But he's got some of that size that we kind of need on the inside. I thought the secondary is playing pretty well. Tariq Bracey he's out there ripping, trying to strip the ball. Our linebackers are kind of like MIA though, man. And I wish Tim was on the show, but it's like we've got this
Tim,
running.
If you're watching, hop in, man.
We've got it's fine. But as we got this cross dog kind of running joke, I cannot believe the number of times that they send those linebackers. I mean, they send them 1 in 3 snaps. They're blitzing the inside linebackers, and they still never make any hay. It's strange. And I had a note about this too, because I've heard other pundits and other talking heads. It's like, well, the linebackers, they're thinking too much. There's too much in the game plan, right? They're processing too much. And it's like, the more I thought about that, Mike, that cannot be true because we're playing 3 different sets. We're rotating so many bodies at the linebacker position that there's no way that coaching staff can install a super complex defense if you have to teach 6 kids the ins and outs and the intricacies of that scheme. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So it's like, oh, they're processing, the scheme's too complex. Like, that can't be true. You can't get 6 different the 1s, 2s, and the 3s ready to play a game with that complex of a defense. You can't do it. So I'm arguing that it comes down to like lack of instincts. JD Bertrand, I've become a fan of his. I mean, that kid plays his butt off.
You can say balls.
But yeah, JD Bertrand plays his butt off, and and I'm waiting for the light bulb to kind of come on for Maris, and that Maris, it's not good enough to just run in there and try and hit something. The objective, Maris, is to get the ball carrier on the ground, and we'll figure it out eventually.
All right, got some comments, super chats, and whatnot. Joe says Howard Cross leads the team with tackles after 3 games, and for YouTube audience, you see on the screen here, this is the stats for the season. How about that? 21.
Mike, can you blow that up? I'm staring at my phone here, man. Yeah,
21.
I'd love to see it.
Goodness gracious, yeah, that's I don't know if that's more impressive by him or just kind of bad for the linebackers and safeties, but that we can discuss that maybe a different time, Mike. We got
just a quick note on that. Like, if your interior guy is making his own hay and being disruptive, it does make it a little bit more difficult on the linebacker. So as the ask, again, these Bamas and these Clemsons, etc., they've got a ton of beef in the front. Their job is to kind of just stay in their gap and keep your linebacker clean, where it's like he's saying to hell, Howard Cross is saying to hell with the linebacker, I'm trying to go get paid, and I'm not mad at him. Somebody's got to do it.
Some super chats. Martin, who apparently is the usher for the recruit section, 32. So, Martin, I'm going to have to get your phone number and start getting the scoop from you, my friend. He says, a career disagree, Mike. Our linebackers looked lost, and we have a former Notre Dame linebacker and captain on the show. So good to kind of dive a little bit more into the linebackers, Mike. He says, no trigger step, bad linebacker one-on-one angles, overall linebackers to receivers. Just talking about the receivers have soft routes, false starts, etc. Do you think the linebackers might have too much on their plate? So a lot to digest there, Mike. Thank you for the super chat, Martin.
Our linebackers look fast, no trigger step, bad. Yeah. The linebackers, Martin, have looked, I would say, average. I haven't seen a single tipped pass. They've done nothing in the pass game. Maybe some early fires against Ohio State. I know Maris kind of got home once. Just trying to scan my sort of mental Rolodex here of clips that I've seen. Yeah, the linebackers are playing average. To my point, Martin, and if you weren't watching, if you just jumped on, I don't believe that they have too much on their plate, in that when you're into the season and you're practicing, the ones get 70% of the reps, the twos get the other 30%, threes don't get reps, right? So as far as Notre Dame's, Al Golden's defense is concerned, they're rotating three different groups of linebackers, and they actually rotate a little bit less, although Junior Tuialamaka made an appearance. So that's a guy that got reps at practice. You can't get reps for all these different kids and all these different practice scenarios inside period. I mean, inside period 9-on-7 is like 12 plays, so you can't install so much, as you had said, put a lot on their plate if you've got 6 different kids playing. Both things can't be true. So with that, I just don't know if they have great instincts, is really what it comes down to in terms of like filling. And Tim Hyde and I were texting, they're kind of playing a bear front. So anytime you see Marist walked up and he's sort of playing over a tight end, and they're trying to showcase Marist. They let Marist rush the passer as he's like kind of a stand-up defensive end type. They let him do that. Hasn't found a lot of success. And then when they're playing this bear front, he's kind of playing an outside linebacker walked over the down tight end. So your 2 inside guys, your reads couldn't be simpler. Every gap is plugged. You've got 5 guys down in front of you. So your job is just to run through and fill. So to me, they just don't have great instincts. And really the kind of that killer mentality. I mean, we saw Clarence Lewis come free as a bird on a blitz and whiff. We saw Isaiah Foskey come free as a bird, uncovered,
blocked. Isaiah
Foskey. This
Yeah.
is a top 20 first round, physical talent.
Yep.
And this is what we talked about, Mike, last episode. And it's stuff like that Clarence Lewis missing that blitz is the equivalent of Braden Lindsey dropping a wide open touchdown pass.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the defensive equivalent to that. It doesn't get as much attention as something like that on offense would, but it's stuff like that. I mean, Coach Golden's like, I got the perfect moment. I'm going to call this corner fire, and it's like, and then we just crap down our leg, and it's like until stuff like that gets fixed, you're not going to become a dominant program.
Yeah. All right. Milton Fan with another super chat says he's not blaming Reese, just that the offense is off like last year, not to be playing their best.
Look mechanical, not playing loose. No, I agree with all that, and I've yet to be able to put my finger on it, but it's something about playing at Notre Dame during those home games. There's a lack of energy. There's a lack of urgency. There's just something to it. And until, the coaching staff or the team gets that figured out, and I experienced that as a player, I'm guilty of it myself. But yeah, there's got to be just a base level of compete. And that's why Deion Colzie isn't going to – I don't know if Deion Colzie wants to play. If he's nursing this injury, like I've never seen like Deion Colzie go compete and, you see that mirrored kind of across the board. So some of that's on Reese, but yeah, some of that's like it's a 50-50 ball. You gotta go play football, gotta go make a play. Perfect timing. Where's Colsey? Colsey's got an ankle or something like that. But from what I saw I saw that Mike in his film, his high school film, he didn't look like a go-getter to me. He just didn't present that way on film. And then when I saw him play as a true freshman, he was sleepwalking. He's a big body, looks good on paper, but until he can kind of find that motivation to go be special, I don't know if we'll see him anytime soon, personally.
I love that kid and his family. This stings a little bit, but I hear you, Mike. I'm listening to you.
But this again, but folks, I don't know Dion, and I'm sure he's a fantastic kid. But like, there's the human being, and there's the kid, and then there's like who he is as a football player, right?
All right, super chat from Drew Pine's belly button, and that's all he wants. He just wanted me to say, just so you have to
get it.
Be my name. So.
Yeah.
He does look like he's trimmed down a little bit. I just wonder if Goolsby, he heard you.
If he's trimmed down, he should let it hang out then. Maybe that's his problem. Roll that thing up a couple times.
So now you want to see the belly button.
Oh, yeah. I want to see a pack full of lint, and we're going to hit that Styles, that little dump off the Styles. We're off to the races, dude.
So, Mike, I learn a lot from you when we do these shows. Just talking, like I had wrote down in my notes, when Lewis missed that sack, Foskey misses the sack, you have targeting on Bertrand. I still haven't seen that, by the way. I thought the game was over, and I went in here, started preparing. So I saw the pick and then didn't see it. But just like these.
And of all people, Mike, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead. No, it's okay.
God,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. But on that play, you think of something that can, I don't know, like something that can create momentum and whatever. And everybody, we all agree Tariq Bracy's been the best player on defense. And that kid's been in the program. He's fought through injuries. I mean, he's done it all. And that kid's playing lights out this year. And who's the kid that gets the pick and returns it for a score? Tariq Bracy. And it comes back because of a stupid penalty by JD. And it's like, dang, that could have been big for the defense. But continue.
Yeah. I'll take your guys' word for it. Again, I still haven't seen it. But, yeah, going back to just – dudes, let their nuts hang and go make some plays. Defensively, Mike, you and Hyde, I thought they played terrible against Marshall. I think they played enough for the Irish to win really all season, but they still just – and I think you can go offensively too. Just like no one's just stepping up. Sans who? Like Bracy, Mayer, I'm guessing just was doubled the entire game. But, Mayer is consistently a standout. Tyree Estime, playmakers. But, like, Lindsey, I always kind of like Lindsey. But I'm not that I don't like it. Like, going back to the young man versus the player thing, he hasn't stepped up. So, long way to ask you, who are the trucks? Like, who are the playmakers on this team right now?
Mayer, Tyree Estime, Styles,
yeah.
Well, but Styles had some drops this past week. And I had said before, it's like he's kind of be playing himself into that sort of dependable
John Sott.
Almost John Sott, baller, dude, balling out of control right now. So I'd put Cross in that mix.
Yep.
57 Adamiola's coming on. Foskey's coming on. Bracy.
Any linebackers?
JD, just because he plays hard, but like, yeah, I mean, we haven't seen a forced fumble. We haven't seen a tip pass. We haven't seen any of it. So it's just, yeah, like the defense is just kind of, it's a lot of like Coach Davey used to call it oozing. Everybody's oozing around. It's kind of like oozing. It's like, and I'm going to stop going Uncle Rico, but there's moments in a game where it's like, you got to sit there and look at your teammates and be like, somebody step up and make a play. And it's like, you got to do it to stop the bleeding, where you have these prolonged drives. And again, you've got, I think Brandon Joseph's been a little bit of a disappointment. I thought he looked great in the first half against Ohio State, but like, where's he been? So, yeah, there isn't,
It
there's
just
talent there. Yeah.
it seems like Notre Dame defensively to have success is just scheme. It's just like calling the right defensive plays at the right time and the coaches being smart because it's not a whole lot of dudes just making plays, right?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, maybe aside from Bracy and Lacey.
Yeah.
Bracy and Lacey.
But still no picks. I mean, okay, yeah, okay, right. There's the Bertrand one. So Bracy made the pick. But
So yeah, I mean, but it's like where somebody, yeah. When we watch the defense, Mike, there's nobody that jumps off the screen at you. And I mean, I've seen Marist enough times where he'll fill, and if he's got the A gap responsibility looking at it, like he'll blow up the guard and just let the running back run right past him. It's like you didn't even have to mess with that guard. And it's just like, gosh, like, is he just running in there with his eyes closed? And Marist is a guy that should be becoming a star and really jumping off the screen. And it's just the production isn't there and the execution's not there. So I don't have the answer.
Yeah. Okay. Drew Pine's belly button again, super chat, just because I love y'all. Where's Tobias? Mike, you talked earlier about with the quarterback.
We're gonna see Tobias. We're gonna see deep balls. We're gonna, based off this play action stuff.
You said earlier it's every year. This is our third year doing these, and it's always this quarterback versus this quarterback. There's always a freshman receiver. It's just the same discussions, just new names. It was Jordan Johnson a couple years ago. Last year, I guess they did play Styles and Goolsby, but so like just get them more. It's always the young guy until they get older, and then it's like, screw them, don't play them, just play the new freshman. So maybe Tobias is a baller, though. It's just kind of one of those things is, do you go based on high school film or the coaches who see him in practice? Like, do you trust those guys? So I don't know.
I mean, trust is a thing. Like, again, go use the linebacker. Use the linebacker position as an example. So that coach has to trust Junior Tuihalamaka to be gap sound, right? So there's not a home run, 20-plus yard running play, which we do love to give up chunk plays in the running game. And like back when I played, it was there might be one a season in terms of like a 20-yard plus running play. It was literally unthinkable. But that coach has to trust that he understands the scheme. I don't know how much trust I have in Tobias to go run a 9 route and just jump up and get the ball. It's not even trusting Tobias to like not somehow screw that up. It's actually trusting in his God-given talent to go make that play. Does that make sense?
Sure.
One of three things is going to happen. We're going to come down with the ball. They're going to pick it off where the ball falls in the ground. So I do think, though, you'll start to see that. That's the next evolution of the offense is once they continue to pack the box, you're going to have one-on-one scenarios, and we're just going to have to, like, rip that Band-Aid off and throw it up. And let's throw it up to Tobias and not Braden at this point. He's just not that player, and that's okay.
All right, our recruit usher again. Appreciate it, Martin. Says, lastly, what does the linebacker / I'm glad you asked this, Martin. What does the linebacker rotation look like with JD being out? So he is out for the first half of the North Carolina game. A pretty good offense.
Yeah, so either this will be pretty telling. You're going to have your one of your captains, and I guess Bo Bauer's a special teams captain, but either Bo's going to step up or you're going to see Junior play. I was thinking about that earlier today. So you're either going to see Junior get inserted and maybe make a name for himself earlier on, or you're going to see more Bo. And it's only for a half.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this might be. I've seen a lot of dumb things. This is one of the dumbest, Drew. Mr. Belly Button. Talking about Merriweather. I mean, of course they want the guy they want to ball out. They don't want to take someone who's balling out off the field. Come on. That's a little bit of conspiracy, my friend. Okay, another super chat. Void Walker, 2006. Piggybacking on what I said yesterday about boneheaded penalties, yes, targeting on an overthrow, PI on an overthrow, unnecessary roughness on a dead play is keeping our defense from being great.
I mean, there's yes, and on offense, you've got Braden Lenzy false starting, you've got false starts. I mean, all those penalties, it's like, is it undisciplined? Is it just dumb football? I don't know what it is. We don't mind aggressive penalties, but like the problem is like a lot of these penalties are coming from DJ Brown had a stupid penalty, and like you have to take some of that. I think that's probably on coaching. I mean, you got to really drill the scenario. It's like, okay, DJ, we're trying to close the game out. It's not time for unnecessary roughness. Like that's a dumb penalty. There's nothing much else to be said other than that. Some of that stuff's the coaches got to drill in and Bill Belichick's a big scenario guy at practice. Like we're running this is 3rd and 1 period, right? And all the different scenarios that you could see in a game atmosphere. So some of that's coaching, and then some of that's just like that DJ Brown stuff. That's just fake tough guy BS. I don't play that.
Mike,
That JD Bertrand. That's a dumb penalty, dude.
Okay. I thought, like, going into this thing, I had no idea what you were going to say about Drew Pine and his performance. Obviously, we talked about him much earlier in the show, but we'll come back to it to wrap up here.
Sure.
I feel like you don't have any strong opinions on the performance. Just kind of played within his limits. I don't know.
I mean,
thoughts on Pine? I mean,
when with the first several series of the game, because it would have taken us, I think there was back and forth. It took 3 series for them. Yeah, there were 6 series back and forth.
It was 7.
3 now.
I think it was 7.
So whatever. It took us 3-4 series to get a first down. My heart went out to Drew Pine because you're watching the guy crumble.
Yeah.
So as a human being, I was like, man, I feel for that kid. But he's our quarterback, and I'm going to support him. He is limited. I think maybe I'm hoping that now that he kind of got this, got over this first start, that maybe he can infuse the offense with a little bit of energy and have a little bit of fun out there. That's kind of like what I'm hoping. I mean, what a cool story it could be. Yeah, we're going on the road. It's
bad
like,
defense.
Drew, dude, there's nobody behind you. I mean, there's nobody behind you. You got a true freshman that's been practicing with varsity for 5 days. Like, it's your show, so go have fun. And I do think we saw it in the Ohio State game. They were loading the box so much, playing single high safety, that we had one-on-one opportunities, and it's going to be up to Drew, hopefully, to make that connection. Like, Tyler could never quite get on the same page with Braden Lenzy, and it's Drew's chance to try and throw some deep balls. It's coming. I mean, it's going to come unless we're gonna if that offense doesn't evolve into taking some deep shots downfield off of play action.
Long year.
It's gonna be a long year, and we're gonna fit right into the Big Ten, bro.
Dude, does this as you're kind of talking there, I'm thinking, man, does this sound like the second coming of Ian Book? Book was never supposed to be the guy.
Yeah.
Right? And then he just kind of got the job and never let it go of it.
And because he again, that was his thing. He's like, he would just do enough to win. He would never put us in risky situations. There was 5 times a game where it's like, gosh, Ian, pull the trigger. Like, let it go. And he would pump, and then, take off for 3 yards or whatever. I think that Drew, he doesn't have, purple-faced Brian Kelly kind of breathing down his neck. I mean, he might have Coach Reese MFing him up in the booth, but that'd be it's like I used to try and talk to Ian on this show, like, Ian, man, you're the guy. Like, let it go, rip, go sling it. And I'm just hoping that Drew can bring that element to the offense. I mean, it's just fingers crossed.
Yeah, Drunk Vigo's comment, Drew Pine's a poor man's Ian Book. I'd say right now, but I think that Pine – I think if he gets more comfortable, I think he will let it go. I that's how I feel. But he's not the athlete Book was, and he's also Book was 6 foot. Pine's like 5'11". So
Drew Pine, is smaller than Chris Tyree.
No.
Baloney. Watch the next time they're in a huddle, dude.
Oh, no. Tyree's like 5'9". Dude, there's no way. There's no.
Wait till you see next game.
Drew Pine is 5'9".
Next time they're in the huddle, they're the exact same size.
How would you use, speaking of Tyree against North Carolina, Mike?
I like, and we talked about this in the offseason, I like 2-back sets. And we talked about that. And you saw our first touchdowns out of a 2-back set. Tyree, use them however you see fit. I think the usage last week against Cal was like perfect in terms of like touches. We're talking about touches versus runs, and give Diggs time to continue to get healthy. But yeah, it can be a little bit of a gadget guy, screen guy. And I think he can run inside. So I like Tyree on outside zones with a cutback opportunity. I like Estime more just straight up inside runs. I want Tyree running outside, cutting back, and I like Estime running downhill and if need be bouncing it outside. But then I just think that Tyree can create a lot of matchup problems. And I'm telling you, Eli Raridan's going to get into the mix here. I'm just telling you. That's my crystal ball thing. But, I mean, if you give me Eli Raridan, Michael Mayer, Chris Tyree, Lorenzo Styles, you're trying to create matchup problems. So anytime that Tyree would walk out and get matched up on a linebacker or safety, the odds are in our favor. So just more ways to feature him in that regard.
Yep. Appreciate the super chat, BC. Just one last comment, unless we do get another super chat, Mike, is as you're talking about this offense and Pine's limitations down the field, maybe we'll see if he develops, but just kind of as we stand right now, if teams are going to load the box up, right, put 8 in the box and say Pine
they're gonna
through the air, I'm just thinking Reese is going to have to be a freaking mastermind. I mean, because he's going to have to scheme, draw things up for the Notre Dame offense to have success. So he's got the weight of the world at his shoulders right now.
Yeah. So it was, again, going back to the camp, going back to training camp, the plan was to get into a fist fight with Ohio State. And we tried and it didn't work. And then we were kind of discombobulated second half of the Ohio State game. Then we come into Marshall and we empty out all the drawers. It's like, okay, what do we have to work with? 5 wide, 13, 12, 22. You name it. We tried it. So then you go into Cal, kind of a discombobulated first half on offense. We've started to find our footing, at the end of the first half. So now we've shown on film that we can at least run the ball. So we were going to get loaded boxes anyway, but now that we've actually showed that that's the best way that we can move the ball on offense, that's all you're going to see. And it's going to come down to some of those 50-50 balls and maybe a chance for Tobias to go make a name for himself a little early on. But it's going to be – guys are going to have to win one-on-one going forward.
Yeah. Okay, actually one more thing. So we haven't talked about the offensive line at all. Thoughts on their performance? I mean, look, the false starts are the false starts. We've mentioned that, but just thoughts on that unit in general.
Yeah, it's the first game that we saw movement, like an actual thrust from the line. But that's against an average Pac-12 team. But we did see it. Blake Fisher's having a little bit of a rough year to me. I texted you, I was like, NFL-wise, I think he's going to be a guard. I just don't know if he has the athleticism. I heard rumblings that he was upset that he was playing right tackle versus he thought left tackle would help him out in terms of like the NFL. But Blake Fisher's playing all right. Rewatching the game late last night, I was surprised at how small Zeke Correll is. I never really noticed that before, but it really jumped out. Like, man, he's small. That's a Notre Dame offensive lineman. But yeah, this was their best game. Pass protection, they did really well. And they created some movement on the offensive line. It's something to build off of, and that's what we called for coming out of Marshall. Is like, I put that loss on the offensive line, and I put that loss in the defense. Offensive line came out and responded, and that's all you can hope for. You got 2 good backs now, and we're going to build from there, and we'll see what kind of talent and kind of magic we can create on the outsides.
All right. Well, Mike, you good for a show next Sunday night? Same time?
I will be here. Same time, same place.
In your tiny room, as people always comment.
This is a converted, like, it's a huge room. It's like a big attic, but it's like on the 3rd floor. I just happen to be on this side
The
of the
angle. Yeah.
yeah. We'll switch it up, man.
Well, Mike, I definitely appreciate your time tonight. Fun show as always. Great insight. So, folks, make sure you hit that thumbs up on this video before you get out of here and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. I have awesome stuff. I mean, the lineup Monday, you got the presser video with Freeman and the reaction from Tyler Horka, recruiting stuff Tuesdays and Thursdays, Wednesday night live show with Tim Hyde, Friday game preview with Tim Hyde, Saturday post-game reaction video with Tim Hyde. We got Goolsby on here every Sunday. So
yeah, I think the channel's got like 18,500 subscribers, and it's like, I'm still a competitive person. I'm trying to get to 20, and he's kind of like setting little goals here, right?
We went from 17 to 18 in like 3 or 4 weeks. So I think we'll hit 20,000 by the end of the year.
Yeah, so spread the word. I mean, my ex-teammates, Mike, they didn't even know that I was doing this podcast. They're like, dude, why don't you let somebody know? So spread the word, folks, if you like what you see, and we'll keep trying to put out some solid content for y'all.
All right, folks. We'll definitely appreciate it as always. Hit that thumbs up again. Head to blueandgold.com for all of your coverage of Notre Dame football, and we'll catch you next time.